Hello, I'm Grin, and welcome to this initial reaction for Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, to begin with, I must say, quick disclaimer, much like the Godzilla video, this one's not really as initial as it should be, as, due to outside reasons, I wasn't able to put this video up straight after seeing the movie. So, it has been a few weeks, quite a few weeks in fact. I'm not really sure how long, as when you're neglecting sleep, all time turns into a confusing blur, but it wasn't yesterday, so it's been a little while. After this video initial reactions will go back to being straight after I've seen the movie. I just had to catch up. But let's get back into it. Spider-Man Far From Home, the latest installment in the MCU, and final installment in Phase 3. It was really good. In fact, I would probably go so far as to say it was fantastic, and kind of stood as a nice palate cleanser at the end of Endgame, where this movie's a lot more simple, a lot more light-hearted, a lot less complicated, and kind of just felt like it worked to bring you back to Earth after the cosmic adventures that was Infinity and Endgame. I would probably rate this film as one of the top 10 MCU movies, which might sound like a backhanded compliment considering there's only 30 or so movies in the MCU, but it's really not intended as such, as I feel like the latest installments in the franchise have definitely been their best. In fact, all of Phase 3 was really quite solid, and it's definitely a battle for the top rather than for the bottom. So while I am saying top 10, all of the recent ones have been extremely good, so even though that list would encompass 1/3 of the entire franchise, the films that find itself within that 1/3 are exceptionally good, so Spider-Man Far From Home is in good standing. But I'm not here to talk about a top 10 list, maybe I'll do that next week, instead just talking about this movie, so let's get back to talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, to begin with, for me, this was really my first experience in an MCU movie where I was rather familiar with the source material. Outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I really don't know much about Marvel at all, aside from the X-Men, which I watched all of the 80s cartoon, and Spider-Man, where I've seen basically every single animated series. And so going into it, I was rather familiar with Mysterio. In fact, so much so that I would go as far to say that he's probably one of my favourite, if not my favourite, Spider-Man villains, because of how well he's done in the Spectacular Spider-Man series. Which I think kind of worked towards me at a bit of a detriment. I feel like my knowledge of Mysterio somewhat undermined the first half of the movie, as while he was being set up for a big twist, I knew he was a baddie the whole time, and I left the movie somewhat glad that I have no knowledge about the rest of the MCU. It's kind of like a big advertisement to say, don't read our comics, it'll spoil the MCU. But did my knowledge of this ruin the movie? No, not really, just the twist and the reveal, as while I was familiar with who Mysterio was, this familiarity led me to enjoy things on a different level, I suppose, as it was just so darn exciting to see a character that I love so much be presented so well on the big screen. They really nailed Mysterio in this movie. The whole nightmare sequence with Spider-Man getting chased around the warehouse and seeing all sorts of creepy stuff, the zombie Iron Man rising up from the grave and crawling towards him, the weird mirror maze, it was just all done so well, and a complete highlight of the series. I think Mysterio is probably one of the best villains we've seen in the entirety of the MCU, and so far as his charisma and intrigue goes, I would rate him up there with Loki. It's just interesting to watch him, it's interesting to see how they overcome him, and it's thoroughly entertaining. So, I really hope Mysterio is not actually dead. I mean, they can get away with saying he's not. We've only been confirmed he is by the glasses that Spider-Man was wearing, which was embodied by an AI that until very recently Mysterio was in charge of, and he's a master of trickery, so who really knows? Please don't be dead. We need more Jake Gyllenhaal in our films. It's just too good to leave at one movie. I mean, really, Marvel, considering how bad some of your villains have been, don't kill off one of your best ones after only one run. In fact, what I would really like to see is we get introduced to the Sinister Six, and then maybe the next big Avengers showdown could be the Avengers versus the Sinister Six. I would completely love that, it would be fantastic, and please make it happen, Marvel, I know you're watching. Now, onto the action, which is definitely tied into the villain and the location. I really thought that this is some of the best action in any MCU film so far, as we were getting ties in between weird dream sequences and fantastic set pieces as well. This movie being set in Europe did wonders, as we've gone from a basic New York setting to all of these different wonderful locations around the world, seeing the battle in London on the Tower Bridge, and them running through the Tower of London, and the battle in Venice, while it also jumps between the weird dream sequences that I mentioned earlier. It was all just so visually interesting to watch that I can't wait to get it on DVD and watch it over and over again. I would definitely watch this movie again just for the fight sequences, they were that good. But that's not to undermine the rest of the movie, as despite the constant fight sequences, at the core of Spider-Man Far From Home was also a teen drama comedy, which itself was done perfectly, was wonderfully entertaining, really quite funny in moments, and had a lot of heart too. This is definitely one of those Marvel movies that is really perfectly combined two genres. Just like Ant-Man would have worked without the superhero elements just as a heist movie, this movie would have really worked just as a teen drama comedy, even if it didn't have any of the superhero elements to it. And then finally the changes it made to the MCU. I always admire the MCU for not hesitating to take the story forward, and they definitely did that in droves here, with, giant spoiler, the movie ending by revealing Peter Parker's identity. This was really a master stroke. It was good to have James Jonah Jameson back again, and I can't wait to see Spider-Man on the big screen again to see where this leads. And so I suppose that's the mark of a perfectly done movie. It entertained me, and I can't wait to see the next one. In fact, I would say my only gripe of the entire movie was that scene where Mysterio was congratulating himself and monologuing to his people about how successful they were. That scene seemed really weird. It felt like it was just talking directly to the camera and saying, "Oh, by the way, this is the plot." But that's a super minor gripe, and I guess it is within Mysterio's character. It just seemed kind of weird that he was explaining to the people who had done it what they had done. But whatever, take it or leave it. I guess I can't really know how that scene would have played out to someone who didn't know who Mysterio was, as I've said, I came into it from a physician who already knew he was evil. Oh yes, and also the soundtrack was great. I'm loving that we're still getting Spider-Man's theme in these movies, and also I'm enjoying the trend of there always being a Ramones song in these films. So, thumbs up on that. Can't wait for the next one, solid movie, one of the best, if not the best Spider-Man movies out there. And with all of that said and done, thanks for watching, and until next time, I have been and still am Grim Grindle. If you would like to follow me on social media or join the Channel Grim and Grin Discord or the Echo Chamber, links to both of those are in the description below.